Hello, hello, this is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, everyone. If you are on SaugaTalks today, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you follow and you like and comment, because if you don't like what we do here, still put like in. Maybe some others will like it. Yeah, jokes apart, jokes apart. I speak weekly with fascinating people who are so generous with their time, with their energy, with their expertise and experiences, that I do care if some extended audience will get to know SaugaTalks and will get to hear some of the pearls of this wisdom. So hello everyone again. Today I'm extremely privileged. Harrison Goode with me. Hello Harrison, how are you?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm really excited to join you.
Pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine, Harris. We agreed to talk about some of the important technology trends over there. I mentioned RPA, intelligent automation, AI, and ML, okay, in the title today. But for those who are new to the field, let's broaden up a little bit. Let's democratize knowledge a little bit. Can you spell out RPA, AI, ML, and IA? For the sake of our audience.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So in terms of RPA, that stands for robotic process automation. In layman's terms, essentially, it really is essentially a piece of software that can automate tasks on behalf of a person. So, if you've got a certain task on your computer that you can do, the RPA can effectively copy and mimic that and do it for you. And obviously, it can do it a lot faster. And if it's done right, it can do it with minimal errors. So, really interesting and exciting piece of technology that's being used by a lot of businesses across the globe nowadays. And I guess moving on to, the next step would be intelligent automation. So very, very similar to RPA in a way, but slightly more advanced in certain areas as well. Intelligent automation can almost be classed as an umbrella term for a number of different technologies. So things like conversational AI that fall into it, that's another part of intelligent automation, whether it's a chatbot or whether it's speech recognition, that falls under the intelligent automation banner. I would also say process mining and task mining, those types of technologies also fall into intelligent automation. And then the next step beyond that, you mentioned machine learning and ML. Machine learning is a much more advanced version of automation in a way, using certain programming languages. It can be Python, it can be R and other technologies as well, to dive a bit deeper into real machine learning algorithms where the algorithm itself learns with the more data that you put into it. And I guess all of those then fall under the AI umbrella in certain forms themselves. So they're all varying stages of artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence ranges from almost like the likes of RPA, but all the way through to things like IBM Watson and supercomputers that can do much more than we can do as humans at a fraction of the speed and a fraction of the time as well that it takes a lot of us to do stuff. So hopefully that gives a quick sort of overview to a lot of your listeners and people watching us today.
It does. So let me put my 5 cents. So some of these technologies are not brand new. RPA has been known for a couple of decades, right? Automation, what used to be business process automation field, right, is also not quite fresh. So can you enlighten us? What's new in 2022 in these exciting fields you mentioned? Of course, with infusion of AI in the business processes, in the enterprise automation, right? What's new? What's kind of hot and shiny toy, this year?
Yeah. Like you say, with RPA in itself, it has been around for many years now, even back before when it was almost like Excel macros or other sort of screen scraping and screen recording type technologies. They've almost taken that and really advanced it. And I would say a lot of things that the RPA can do now and these technologies, they are much more advanced. And that, when you say new and shiny, I would say the more intelligent automation technologies that we're starting to see now. So one thing that I mentioned earlier around conversational AI. So for instance, virtual chatbots or intelligent virtual agents, whether it is on chat or whether it is on speech, these technologies can actually understand what someone's trying to say, whether it's over an email or a text or a chatbot on the website, or even over the phone. If someone calls up, on the other side, the AI can really understand what that person's trying to say and hold a full conversation with that person as well, rather than just providing yes or no answers or pointing them to a certain part of the website. It can hold a full conversation and actually help that person with the outcome. So the advancements that we've seen in that type of technology, that is probably the newest and shiniest technology that we're seeing a lot of enterprise integrate into their businesses nowadays to not only improve customer satisfaction, but also employee satisfaction as well. The employees that were usually there doing those jobs themselves, they can now focus on more business critical tasks or things that perhaps require a bit of human empathy, and leave the easy tasks to the intelligent automation that they've got in the business. So yeah.
I do speak with a lot of experts in influencers in automation field in particular, and I can time how fast we go from technology to humans and empathy. You mentioned the E word just, in a few sentences. This is fabulous because we used to think of automation of replacing, right? Automation meaning that machines are better than we are. So as a technologist, as a business leader, could you please speak a little bit how empathy is going to play bigger and bigger part in automation initiatives, in intelligent automation, where human become a little more intelligent and machine become intelligent with those humans?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is a massive talking point at the moment. And you're right, when automation and AI really started coming through and businesses and organizations were adopting the technology, there was always a bit of a worry of, are robots going to take our jobs? But in fact, it actually enhances a lot of what people are doing nowadays. To have a piece of technology or some automation or some AI really enhancing your day-to-day job, allowing you to focus on things that you can do better or things that require that human element. It just improves the overall working life of someone who's been doing the more mundane tasks that they never really wanted to do anyway. And in doing so, that empathy part when dealing with either customers or internal stakeholders, it really helps the business overall, not just from a customer's perspective, but also, like I said, from employees as well, being able to engage in that way and really have those meaningful conversations and have perhaps a much greater impact on the business day to day, and not having to worry about the other tasks that, the AI and automation is doing. And I think it's going to be a big thing moving forward. I think clearly the AI can do a great job. Humans can do a great job as well, but if it can do a great job in the parts that you're not so interested in, and you can focus on the parts that you really want, that's where that empathy really comes in. And I think where a lot of the value add comes in for a lot of these technologies as well. I think a lot of businesses think of purely the impact of the technology, of what it can have, whether it's ROI or other satisfaction, whereas they don't always tend to measure the other impact that it has on the workers and the employees that are actually dealing with this day to day as well, which is probably a big thing that a lot of businesses are really starting to take into account now.
Makes sense. Make total sense, Harrison. Absolutely. And you also comment on the natural extension of digital transformation. We're talking about intelligent automation. Don't you see this as a continuation to digital transformation minds, at least, thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think digital transformation still needs to be used as a term, because I don't think it just stops with, the older digital transformation that we saw in previous years, whether it's through ERP or BI technologies that were, integrated years ago. I think it's just a continuation of continual transformation for that organization, and everything moving forward is clearly digital. So I think it does really encompass intelligent automation. It encompasses AI and machine learning. And again, like those terms, it is almost like an umbrella term to encompass all of those initiatives that organizations are embarking on and the things that they're looking to achieve.
Beautiful. Sounds simple. And yet, of course, so many organizations struggle to begin the initiative, struggle to progress the initiative and demonstrate the successes to stakeholders, to business users, and to customers, and to finish those initiatives. That's even more challenging. Can you walk us through some of the wisdom points, something that you find very useful, and hopefully our audience will too?
Yeah, I think because being a recruiter in the space and running a recruitment business, we have quite a unique viewpoint on these programs of work, and when these businesses embark on these large digital transformation journeys. And for us, and a lot of the time, and for a lot of the businesses we work with and the people that we speak to, it always comes back down to the people that are involved. So setting out a strategy from the outset and looking at the technologies that you're wanting to implement is great, but how are you going to deliver that, and how does that impact the current people that you have working within your business, but also what does that look like for the experts that you need to bring into the organization to make sure it works? I think a lot of the time businesses go out with an idea and say, oh, we want to implement RPA, let's go and do that, and they don't actually always think about how that needs to be done and what the team needs to look like, how they're going to set it up and run that, and then also the impact beyond that as well, in terms of continually running it and monitoring it and making sure it's successful. Because you can do a pilot, you can do a POC or a POV, and it can work well, but those next stages beyond that to make sure it's successful and truly scale it across the business are where a lot of people are struggling. And it does come down to the people that they have as part of the business to ensure that succeeds. Having a buy-in from the top down, having those stakeholders, but also having people from the ground up having a buy-in to what the business is doing as well is also really just as important.
About finding this first project, I myself very interested in in that very early stage where, again, organizations presumably doing fine, right, knowing some of the pain points, but not necessarily grabbing to actually implement the enterprise-wide automation initiative. So where do you find this first process, first business unit, and first team that's gonna be your pioneer in that journey?
Yeah. So I guess it's a bit of a complex one, but I think having almost a hybrid approach in a way where you have someone within the business internally who's looking to lead this initiative, but also perhaps having some external help from an expert or an organization that have done this before, someone who can come and advise and understand what the goals are of your business and work with you to understand what should we look at first, what areas should we look at. Some businesses do get sidetracked, I think, sometimes by looking at the thing with the largest ROI, and they see the big ROI off of this. For instance, with RPA, they see something that they can automate and it could save them $1 million a year, and they look at that and they'd say, oh, that's great, we can automate that and it would save us so much money. But I think more often than not, what organizations typically do is they look at the low-hanging fruit. What is something that we can look at quite quickly and implement and show a quick sort of ROI, and do that within a short time frame to prove that it works and to prove that we can do it. And then once you've done that, you then build on that success, and then you work your way up to the big shiny ROI that you have in mind from the outset anyway, and then you work your way towards that once you've been successful. Because I think once you've proven that it works, you get more buy-in from the business, more people build up confidence in that business unit. You then probably have more budget to hire more experts in, or go out to the market for external help, whether it's through a consultancy or an independent person themselves, and then really build it from there. So that's what we see that tends to work a lot and works quite well.
Beautiful. How about technology stack, though? You mentioned some of the critical points earlier, but would you spell out, please, how to pick the right technology? Because it could be playpen, okay? It's not a set mandatory tool set, from my understanding. So how do you pick right technology, and how do you select a vendor? I know it's a big question.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think a lot of businesses, when they first start out on that journey, I think just going back to that, they need to really understand what the end objective is. So rather than going in and saying, right, we want to adopt RPA, and then they go out to market and they look at the RPA vendors and they speak to a few, and then they go through selection, and then they bring the RPA vendor in, and then they're like, right, what do we do with this vendor? Oh, there's a few things that we can do. I think first of all, understanding what the objective is. If it is automation, then is RPA right? Maybe you could look at BPM or perhaps some other automation tools that might be a bit more suitable. But once you've understood exactly what the goals are, you then try and look at what technologies fit into that journey. And it might not just be one, it might just not be one RPA tool. It could, be a combination of a few things. It could be RPA. You could be looking at, maybe you're looking at some conversational AI stuff, or maybe some more advanced machine learning decisioning through that process as well. What a lot of the businesses tend to do is try and keep it simple at the start. And then, once you've proven that it works, then you can look at the other areas where perhaps other technologies can have a bigger impact. So to start off with, it's really starting off small. And when you go through that vendor selection process, you have to be quite careful. As we all know, the vendors are very good at selling their product, but when you get down to the bare bones of it, all the products are very, very similar. So it's really what works best for your business. You need to understand, your own architecture and what your business is running on currently. How does that work, and how does that integrate to make sure that you're kind of set up for success? Because if you're adopting a new technology that doesn't necessarily play nicely with what you've got already, you could be setting yourself up to fail. So doing that from the outset is probably the best thing, and certainly from people that we speak to is something that they look to do first of all.
Why don't we jump to Edge Tech? You're a co-founder of the firm that helps with recruiting technical talent. Could you tell us, why you do what you do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, I ask myself that every day.
Yep, share with us. No one will hear. Yep.
Yeah. No, so I set up Edge Tech just coming up to 4 years ago now, with my two co-founders. Prior to that, we were all working in recruitment, and we really saw an opportunity in the market, certainly in the emerging technology space, involving things around RPA, intelligent automation, machine learning, AI. We saw a real gap in the market where, the need for talent is really high. There's a lot of demand, and there's not enough supply. So, we felt that we could fit in really well. We'd done it previously, and we thought, when we set up Edge Tech, it would be really good to work with some exciting businesses. So, we work with organizations all shapes and sizes, from growing scale-ups and startups that have just received funding, all the way through to giant enterprise organizations that are implementing these technologies. So no day for us looks the same, but it's really exciting to work with quite a range of organizations. And we do that in the UK, we do it across Europe, and we also do it into the US as well. And you mentioned about the types of positions that we recruit for. Again, that does vary as well. So we work on anything from developers and architects, project managers, all the way through to salespeople, operations, marketing, for vendors and startups. So our the roles that we work on varies, but in terms of the technologies that we focus into, or the areas at least, it is very focused around that RPA, intelligent automation, process mining, and AI market. So yeah, that's a bit about us.
Wonderful. So in the years that you've been with industry, how do you think future of work is changing, and therefore recruiting processes are changing with the help of AI, with the help of automation?
Yeah. So I think the market over the past couple of years has shifted quite a lot. Our RPA has been around for a while, but it's still an extremely hot topic at the moment. There are more and more organizations that are looking to adopt it. The same with all the other technologies that I mentioned as well, in the intelligent automation and AI space. Those ones are slightly slower to adopt because they're a little bit newer, but we'll start to see a big increase of these over the next few years as well. But I think due to COVID and the way that the world has been working over the past couple of years, naturally everyone's been completely remote. You and I now, we're doing it over video, which is great, and it's allowed people to work in a much different way. But what we're seeing now is quite a big shift in a lot of people's priorities. So, when we first started the business, or 4, 5, 6 years ago, a lot of the conversations that we would have with people who are looking for a new change in their career would always be centered around, right, can I get a bit more money? What's the salary look like? Can I get a bit of an uplift? And now the conversations have shifted slightly to, can I work remotely? Can I work from anywhere? Can I work any hours that I want? Is there that sort of flexibility? So the priorities that we see in a lot of people has really shifted. And I think even though these technologies are still quite new, it's allowed people to get jobs that they wouldn't have necessarily got before. So there's a lot more selection for job seekers out there, but there is a lot more competition for the organizations that are looking to hire as well. So, and I don't think we're going to see that curve sort of flatten out for the next few years, at least anyway. So yeah, it's interesting.
I hear you. I hear you. How do you think the applicants are changing, the candidates overall? Because what I think I'm seeing out there is that college degree is not even a mandatory step anymore. You can get through boot camps. You can get any kind of backgrounds to enter technical career, as long as, again, you have needed skills and you have the passion and you have the enthusiasm to learn more and just persevere, on that path. Do you see that kind of traditional, right, candidate profile changing?
Yeah, we've definitely seen that change completely. A number of years ago on job specs, and when we took job briefs from clients, it would be, we'd really like someone who's been to university and done a fairly relevant degree. But nowadays, you're right. If someone's got some real world practical experience, or even if they're entry level and they've done some courses online, and there's so much available now. Even with these new technologies that are coming out, there's so much out there that you can learn, and free courses that you can take or even pay for yourself. And I think if we were to present someone who had that experience compared to someone who had no experience but came from university, I think nowadays the client would probably take someone with that experience and having not been to university. So that has shifted quite a lot as well. And I think because of the changes, certainly over here in the UK, to the prices of university, I think more and more people are opting not to go and actually get into work earlier, which I don't think is a bad thing, because they're getting some good experience. And if they're in the right, in the right sector and they're doing the right thing, then it actually helps them further down the line compared to someone who goes to university for 3 years, graduates and doesn't have any experience, and they're almost starting at that same point from when that other person did, but just 3 years later. So yeah, unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, I mean, we've seen it shift quite a bit.
Technology is not that ivory tower that if you don't have computer science degree, you still can be part, especially around, we're talking about platform economy, we're talking about creator economy, we're talking about so many new marketing, sales tools that's coming to play along, that you can be part of technology industry in whatever capacity you are talented. So how are you going to comment on the entry point, the entry barrier? Is it lower now than a few years ago, you think?
Yeah, I do. I think the barrier previously, you had to get that type of experience, you'd have to work for a technology company. You'd have to either go to university and learn that, or maybe do an internship to really build up your experience. But I think going back to the resources that are available now, and just the technology that's out there, and some of the free technologies that you can play around with if you wanted to get involved, and you've got free versions and free trials of things that you can get involved with. There's so much out there. There's such an opportunity for people to get involved early on and just build up their experience and show that interest. And if they're willing enough to learn and put their own time into it, the opportunities are endless, essentially.
That's music to my ear, because I do want to, spell this out for the newcomers, those who just figuring out what the career path is going to be. So why don't we step into this very smart, very educated kind of area where data scientists, machine learning specialists are working? How do you comment on what's happening there now? How do you find the mood out there right now? Because opportunities are endless, and yet again, many companies are not hiring higher paid, higher kind of qualified specialists, because frankly, they don't know how long those initiatives gonna stay, if I can be a little bit skeptical.
Yes, yeah. And I think those, like you say, with machine learning and data science, it is more advanced. And I think for those roles, we have seen, certainly for the entry point, it has changed slightly. I think there is still a preference around, if someone has done a degree, not necessarily on computer science, because they could have done something on statistics or mathematics, for instance. So I think those companies are very much opening up to the sort of backgrounds that people have. if they don't have that background, again, they are open to people who have, put in time on perhaps courses around, things like Python or R, and they've done boot camps and things like that. There are organizations out there that do like training academies, and they put you on certain courses and then also help you find a job afterwards, or at least upskill you to get you to a stage where you've got sufficient entry-level skills to get there. So I think even those more advanced and, certainly data science and machine learning engineers, they're paid very well. And certainly, the more experienced ones, careers in those types of, roles are very sought after. But like you say, that entry point now has shifted slightly. And I think organizations are much more open. Whereas before, you would have had to done a, perhaps like a PhD in statistics or a PhD in computer science to even get a looking for a lot of these companies, that it would be a prerequisite before they even interview you. But now it has changed.
Absolutely. And I cannot not ask you, Harrison, about future work. What do you think about Metaverse now? Because we are stepping into that world, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah. It is a very hot topic at the moment. We actually co-hosted an event last week around the Metaverse and Web3 and NFTs as well. And this new wave of tech, I think in the business world, we're still yet to see its impact. But I think over the next 5 years, it will be the future of the way the world is working. Just like previously with the breaking point of RPA, when that term was first coined, many years ago, it was all quite new, and people at the time weren't really too sure about it. They thought, are these robots going to come in and take our jobs? I think there's a lot of skepticism around the metaverse at the moment. What real application does it have? How would that work? But we're starting to see a few things like that already now, like even with interviewing in the metaverse. I know some companies have started doing things like that, or team meetings for a lot of organizations that are doing things like that as well. So we're still yet to see a huge impact, but I definitely think that the market there is going to be huge, and I'm yet to understand exactly what sort of big business applications that has, but I'm sure that there will be a few over the next few years. So it's one that we're definitely keeping an eye on as a business, and we're starting to have conversations with a lot of organizations we're working with about their plans for it, what they see it being as part of their business, and basically how we can help facilitate that with those experts that are involved in these technologies. And there aren't many people out there, but I know that more and more people we speak to are getting involved and are very interested in the topics.
Exactly. The fresh topic that came to my attention just lately, many startup incubators, for them, it becomes the norm when you have a residence program, you have apparently online presence, you definitely have the in-person events and
Yes.
the metaverse. And metaverse workspace, so you can choose how you want to join these incubators. And for many businesses, of course, it's fashion retail, it's some other gaming platforms and everything, right? They are more and more metaverse, but like you said, more conservative industry kind of figuring out. And yet banking, I hear from a lot of experts, open banking is going to be there, like one of the first ones to try, and they seem to be liking what they're seeing there.
Yeah. We've seen that as well. I think that financial services and banking are always, relative early adopters for a lot of these technologies. There's obviously a lot of compliance. There's a lot of, regulations around what they do. And if there's something out there which can, meet all of those things, and it's new and exciting and can also be a lot more efficient for them, then they're always the ones to be looking into it. I know a lot of the businesses we work with on the banking sector, they were very much the early adopters of RPA and intelligent automation and other machine learning technologies as well. And, they're doing some really good things and interesting things with it.
Harrison, thank you so very much for your time. In conclusion, could you please leave our audience with few takeaways? Because we touched on broad set of topics here, from technology to human talent, to the future of work, right? And including some of the organizational advices, right? Where to start this project, where to find this first initiative. So takeaways from intelligent automation world, AI and machine learning, sending our audience off to implement and to enjoy.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think one of the things, I think if you're someone who's looking for that next step in their career, or if you're interested in these technologies, go and have a look at the free resources that are online, whether it's RPA or intelligent automation, machine learning. Have a look. Really invest your time into these technologies, because they're not going away. They are very new. They're really exciting, and there is a lot of demand out there at the moment globally for experts with those skills. So don't worry about what background you have. Get invested, invest your time into it, upskill yourself. And I think, you'd be quite surprised to the entry point. We talked about a low barrier for entry. Doing that, if you are someone looking for that next step in their career, then that's something I would advise. Obviously, reach out to me if you need some help. Happy to help on that. Another thing, I guess, as well, for organizations that are looking to embark on these journeys, I think, coming from a recruitment perspective, getting that people strategy part down early is a really big part to play. Like we say, we speak to a lot of businesses that are struggling to find the right people, or they're not going in the right direction because the lack of experts that they have in the business. Make sure that that's a key priority from the outset, rather than just the technology, because if you go in people led, you'll have a lot more success. And I guess to the future, I think this is something I'll probably take away for myself as well, but definitely keep a pulse on the metaverse, on Web3, on NFTs, these new technologies that you're hearing about and you're a little bit unsure about. Make sure you've got your finger on the pulse, because we're doing more research into it. It's a really hot topic. A lot of businesses are talking about it at the moment. So when anyone's investing their time into those other things, take a look at those as well. If you can invest some time into those and get some further learning and understanding, maybe there's some courses out there, upskill. Even if you're not looking for a career change, having that as a string to your bow could really take you places, perhaps in 5 years' time. So yeah, I guess those are my three key things, at least.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Harrison, so very much. Thank you.
That's okay.